Welcome to Parent Coaches Unleashed, the podcast where we dive into the highs, lows, and did that really just happen moment of parenting teens and young adults. We're Carrie and Jessica, parent coaches, mythbusters, and occasional referees in the battle of hormones versus common sense.
If you've ever wondered, is this just happening to me? You're not alone. We are here to help you with real talk, expert advice, and hopefully a few laughs along the way. Need more support? We also offer private coaching, workshops, and speaking engagements because sometimes even parents don't have all the answers.
So continue listening as we tackle this parenting journey together.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Jess.
What's happening over there today?
So we've had a little excitement over here, and I'm back to focusing and concentrating, but our fire alarm in our building constantly goes off. So it's, do you leave? Do you not leave? Do I grab the dog? The whole thing. But anyway, so false alarm. It was a sprinkler issue, but we're all good.
Oh,
However,
good. Okay.
my excitement pairs nothing to yours going on in your household as you have a recent high school graduate.
Yes, so it is official.
No, did I say high school?
The
High
last
school.
one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Last one. Our youngest just graduated from high school, and we are on our way. I don't think we're empty nesters yet because he's still upstairs, but we are on our way to being empty nesters pretty soon.
Soon.
Yeah, and speaking of high school graduations, I would like to thank Carrie and Ken for this amazing gift that they gave Jackson, the Ultimate College Student Health Handbook. It is by author Dr. Jill Grimes, and what a coincidence because today on our show, we are lucky enough to have the college doc, Dr. Jill Grimes. So please welcome to our show, Dr. Jill Grimes. Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for inviting me on your show.
Well, we are so excited to have you here. Uh, how did it happen? How did you go from going to medical school, deciding what you were going to practice, and then you evolve into this college doc? Give us a little brief history on that.
Okay, I'll try and keep it short. It's sort of a funny story. So I did private practice for my first 20 years. I had my own practice for 10 years. And then I worked in another practice where I didn't have to be the boss and manage everything for another 10 years. And in there, I found that there was one problem. I really pride myself on being very good at preventative medicine. That's my whole passion, right? I want to prevent things. And yet I kept having all these patients, and not just me, but all my partners. We had patients who were surprised when they were diagnosed with a sexually transmittable infection.
Okay.
Long story short, we were like, how are they not getting this? And that's when Grey's Anatomy was this a long time ago. Grey's Anatomy was really popular, and ER, and they would remember all the stories from that. But that, and I realized, what, stories are more powerful than statistics. You can't just talk about things that work.
Sure.
So I thought I would write a pamphlet for the office about somebody getting genital herpes. It was well received, and I ended up doing a bunch of, pamphlets, and long story short, that evolved into a book, my first book that I never intended to write, called Seductive Delusions: How Everyday People Catch STDs. And so I wrote this book, and I naively, I didn't know anything about being an author. I'm a doctor. And so I thought I would write this book. I got a publisher. I was ecstatic. It was Johns Hopkins University Press. And I thought they would go, put it out in bookstores before Amazon. So they would put it in Barnes and Noble and Borders and all the bookstores. And I would happily go along my way being a doctor, and Oprah would give me a call and I would be on her show. And that would be it. That was the dream, right? That's not how that works. So they said, no, you need to be like the world's expert on STDs. And I said, I'm not. As every primary care physician, every OB-GYN, every family medicine doctor, like we all see this. And they said, well, you have to be the expert. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? They sent me to media training. I started doing radio shows, TV. So that was how I got into that.
Huh.
You got to be really careful what you do because
What you asked for.
yes, because then I became, the STD doc. and the STD queen or the sexpert. And I spent the next, decade talking about that and other awkward topics. And I had young children who they were in grade school.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
but I became the go-to person to ask to talk to youth groups. I'm a Girl Scout leader, so Girl Scout troops, National
Mhm.
Charity League, all these things about not just sex, but sex, drugs, and rock and roll, all the
Sure.
right. And and meanwhile, my girls were growing up. And when they got to high school, I had been making first aid kits as high school graduation gifts,
Mhm.
college first aid kit, because I'm a
Oh,
family medicine
that's
doctor,
a
right?
great that's a
Yeah.
great gift.
Prevention. So
Yes.
when I made my first one, it was for my babysitter next door. And I took it over there and I was so proud. It was really cute, and all the ribbons and decked out. And her mom's like, "Well, this is great, but Dr. Jill isn't going with her to college. How's she going to know when to use what?" I'm like, "Oh, man, I was
Oh,
so proud of this." So she gets these index cards out and she starts firing questions. When do you take Tylenol versus Advil? Which cream do you put on this? What happens if you have
Oh,
diarrhea?
what
And she just like started rapid
sure.
fire asking me all these questions and taking notes. Well, so then the next kit I made
you had instructions.
these instructions, and that became like a 30-page laminated booklet because, yes, I love to laminate. And, um,
Who doesn't?
yeah, right, right? It's so satisfying. But then by the time our girls were ready to go off to college, I'm like, "Oh, no, this has to be a whole book because I need to have, test anxiety and insomnia and way more that I can fit
Uh-huh.
into a
A
little
pamphlet.
pamphlet." And I didn't make it in time for the first one or for the second one when she left. But the good news was the second one got a degree in animation, and she actually was an illustrator for. She went to Loyola Marymount University, and they have their press, and she was an illustrator for them.
Oh.
She became the illustrator for my book, so she was a current college student illustrating this college student health.
That's amazing.
That is what
That's great.
that's a great story. So,
Well,
oh, wait, is that the end of the story, though? Like, how did you
yes, I purposely said, I don't want to be known as, the
Yes,
SE
teaching
lady
doc.
or whatever. I want to be, I'm talking about all the things. And I really, really enjoy talking to college students and to parents and to high school students. And so I'm just like, I'm going to brand myself as the TikTok college doc. It rhymed, right?
never
And you got to go
yeah,
where the people are.
Uh-huh.
So
yeah, of course, and what a great underserviced
Yes.
age group for health factors because you're young, you just graduated from high school. Nobody's looking at that population as somebody that needs health advice from a
Mhm.
doctor. But
right.
there are so many situations that arise in college that you would never think that they would need to be prepared for. And I love what you consider the health topics, for just hangovers and homesickness,
Yeah.
test anxiety, and um all of these topics that you cover that are so prevalent in our college students'
Mhm.
lives.
Yeah.
So,
And
thank you.
there's a lot of health information being delivered by influencers, and if those influencers are practicing physicians, more power to them. But when it's somebody that's just trying to sell you a product, not quite as good.
Right.
So
So,
that's I'm in that.
I love how you started this is your 3rd edition that we have, and I love how you started it with the 12 tips for preparing to go,
Mhm.
and one of the most important things and I feel like I've run into this with all 3 of my kids at different times, but starting with their health insurance card. I mean, how
Yeah.
many parents even remember to send it with them or to have a picture with it? And that's the first thing you say, right now, take a picture and have it in your phone.
Absolutely.
So,
Honestly, every person listening should do that because,
Yes.
right.
when you end up in an emergency room, you wanna have it just quick and ready access.
Mhm.
And even if you're going to your family physician or urgent care or whatever, that's the very first thing that happens. And so we definitely need to teach our kids that, and they need to have it favorited on their phone or wherever they know that they can go to it.
So it's funny because right after I read that, I texted in our family group chat and said, everybody needs in their notes document right now, everybody needs to have um, a section just for what to tell the doctor, what medications you're on,
Mhm.
past surgeries or past experiences, your
Mhm.
insurance card, emergency contact, have that written out right now. So that was started
And
out with just the best
and
tip.
while you're at it, they need to have their, car insurance and all that stuff in that same area
Yeah,
too.
that's
Totally
absolutely.
agree. And AAA. Yeah. Yeah.
Alright.
And that
So
got
yeah,
added because, um, a lot of physician moms asked me to add that.
okay, well, that's
Oh,
good.
that's
Yeah.
That was new in the 3rd edition, and
but
everyone's
it's true. It's one of those things you don't think about until you need it,
right.
until your child says, "I need to go to the infirmary," or "The infirmary's closed, I have to go to urgent care." Whatever it is,
Yeah.
that infirmary, I don't it's not called that anymore. I think I'm at the health center, but,
Health center, yeah.
yeah.
Student health
Alright.
services.
Yeah, health service, there you go. So what health issues do you most commonly see in first-year college students? Like, is there a
Mhm.
few things that stand out?
Yes. But the first one is injuries because they get a lot of concussions. They fall a lot. They're in small spaces. The girls put their flat irons and every kind of hot thing up high. They fall off. They get burns.
Hmm.
Moving in, people break their toes on those cement. On the
Oh,
bed,
the cinder blocks.
you
Right,
know,
right, right.
lofting the beds. Like
Yep.
the very first thing is injuries. Second thing is you're living in tight spaces. So, the flu,
Mhm.
every cold virus. And that hasn't changed with COVID.
Right.
We got to where, I mean, understandably, our whole society shut down, but we got to where that was all we think about. If someone's got a cough, oh my gosh, they have COVID. No, you can also have the flu. You can have a lot of other things, and
Mhm.
so that passes through quickly. Certainly,
Sure.
we see strep. That's always like every doctor loves to diagnose strep because it's a problem. We can fix it easily, and it's
But as parents, come on, when your kids were in elementary school or that was what you always prayed the diagnosis would
Absolutely.
be, because
Yeah,
you can
you
have
can
an
get the
antibiotic and
antibiotic.
be good in 48 hours, and that's it.
exactly. Pink eye, definitely
Mm,
that
yes. Sharing makeup also with the
food.
girls and
Mhm.
Yes,
yeah.
and a lot of cold sores, which is herpes,
Mm.
Yeah.
and we see it everywhere. Mouth.
Showing up for the first time, or they didn't realize and it's now with stress just happening more often on the
Probably
cold
both,
side?
but a lot for
Okay.
the first time because
Okay.
statistically at 18, it's a smaller percentage that have it. When it's passed in families, I mean, it's not always sexually
Like,
passed,
yeah.
but you're sharing drinks, you're sharing lip gloss, all of
Right,
this.
all of that.
So obviously, other sexually transmittable infections because hookup culture, and it's
Mhm.
just those are all really common.
Those are
Sure. So, I loved how you started with hangovers. Would you say that is one of in addition to your whole list? I mean,
Yes,
obviously, not everyone who goes to college is abusing alcohol, but we're
right.
not naive here, and we know that it is a culture where drinking does happen on a regular basis, right? We're not naive to
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Um, but you really give a lot of great advice on how to treat a hangover, how to know when it's alcohol poisoning versus just being drunk or whatever it might be. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, about this, about what the kids
sure,
need to be looking for?
sure. The biggest thing is we don't want kids leaving somebody to go sleep it off, right? If
Mhm.
somebody and the question is, are they drunk and sleeping or are they unconscious and they need help because they literally could die of alcohol
Right.
toxicity? Somebody who is unconscious, you cannot wake up. Somebody who is drunk and sleeping, you can wake up. They're going to be irritable. They're going to be mad at you, but they can have a conversation. They might be slurring their words some, but they should be able to be coherent and talking to you. And you have to remember that blood alcohol levels keep going up for an extra, let's just say hour. It's 45 minutes to an hour after your last drink. So somebody who is drunk and sleeping now, 30 minutes from now, can be unconscious because their blood alcohol level is still rising.
Right.
So the biggest thing is to go back and check on people. Don't leave them alone.
okay.
That's really, really important. I was curious about something though. You said, I read you said that, when you have a hangover to take sips, but
Yeah,
not to use a straw.
use a straw because when you're okay, if you are that hungover that you're nauseous, you've probably been throwing up. You had enough alcohol to really irritate your stomach lining. You've irritated your liver as well. You're nauseous, obviously. If you introduce more air into your stomach, which is what happens when you use a straw,
Mm,
it just it increases your nausea and chance of vomiting.
okay.
So you want to just sip directly from a cup. And everybody now has their big old bottles. Some you can sip out of, some have the built-in straw. But that's why
Mhm.
we have to say,
Sip
just
slowly.
just have sips and don't use a straw and use a rehydration solution, like Pedialyte, something with
Yeah,
electrolytes. My favorite
electrolytes.
is Cure. Disclosure, I like it so much that I'm actually on their medical board. I'm not paid to be on their medical board, but it actually I
One
just
more hat for you to wear.
love it. It's I, I I just really like the taste of it. I use it myself. Yeah, I drink it every day as a workout drink. But
Okay.
but having a rehydration solution is really important. And things like Gatorade just have a lot of sugar. If you have too much of that rather than something that's an actual, oral
Right.
rehydration solution, then you can actually get too much sugar and that can give you an osmotic diarrhea. So then
Ah,
you're keeping things
Yeah,
moving.
yeah, you're
If you have
coming from
one
both.
Gatorade and you have 2 waters, you're fine, but you just people can overdo it on the sugary sports drinks.
so is there a conversation you recommend for parents to have with their kids around these topics? Not just alcohol, but things that they might try or experiment with while they're away from you, like an honest conversation? I Is there anything you recommend for parents to talk about? Or I'm sure there's a lot, but
Yeah. I can fill the next hour with that. Yes, so many things. One, I just wanna say, so I have a college advisory board. It's a group of over 20 students from across the country, and we talk about these things. And one question that I asked them just last night was, "What do you wish your parents knew or had said to you?" And there were lots of different answers. A big one was that they wish their parents would acknowledge that they might mess up, whether it's with a grade or, and for some of them, messing up is a 96, not a 100.
At 100,
a
yeah.
lot of high
A
achievers
lot
on your board,
lot of
probably.
and, they might make a B,
Right.
and they might get drunk,
Mhm.
and they might do something that ends up with a bad outcome, and the students wanted their parents to know that talk
Count on their parents
they
to
could
yeah,
count on their parents, that they could tell them, "This happened, I screwed up," without, you know, being completely rejected for it.
yeah.
Right.
So,
Or
uh
being afraid and they wanna, like, hide it or
Right,
go to another source that might not be reliable to find their way out of it.
right, right. And they also said, "Let us fail. Don't step in and fix everything, but we wanna know that it's okay to come to you if we do mess up." There's so many things that I want parents to talk with their kids about, but the biggest thing, you can have good intentions and you intend to have a drink. But one, a college pour, a college pour is a whole glass. It's about 3 glasses of wine and 1 glass if it were wine, which most of them don't drink wine. But vodka shots are kind of today's introduction to drinking, where it used to be beer, right?
Mhm.
And it with shots, it is really easy to get too much because it's 1 second,
Right.
literally.
Yeah.
3 seconds if you're slow. Probably take me 30 seconds, but and
That would be my drink for the night, but
but yeah, it's and then that impairs your judgment.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so even though you intended to only have one, now you have another. And there's so many things like that. And when you're new in college, um, last night, one of the things they talked about was you've had friend groups that were kind of friends of convenience, your next door neighbor or your kids in your class that you grew up with. You get to college and you're trying to recreate that, and it might be with your roommates. A lot of times people want to latch on to their roommates and their suite mates. and they might have very different habits than you do. And if they're all drinking, you want to fit in, and you may even think you may think you're going to have one drink and it's more. So I think it's just important to acknowledge that, and that the main thing is to not wait until you're in crisis to seek help, and that mistakes happen even when you're well intentioned.
So,
And
do you think it's important outside of I can go to my parent to talk about any of these things? Should I have messed up or made a bad choice? Are there also things preventatively that as parents we could say, here are the resources at school? Not saying that we don't want them to come to us,
oh,
but
right,
in addition, you can go here. Like, is that maybe part of a
yeah.
pamphlet that we give?
Yes, that I used to literally look up every school when I would make these first aid kits and do my own instructions for them. The first thing I would do on the very front page, I would have almost every campus now has a 24-hour nurse hotline,
Okay.
and and how to access that, because yes, there are plenty of resources on every campus that you can call. And again, that's part of preparing them to start taking care of their own health,
Mhm.
is knowing how to access that. And I do think that that's really important.
Okay. Go ahead.
The other thing
No.
that I want to add in here is that a lot of parents um, give the message, okay, just, don't do drugs, right? And I don't think inherently that's a bad message. I understand that there's political background and stuff that makes
Right.
it difficult, but
We're not going there.
yeah, not going there. My point is, what people don't understand is that, what many parents don't understand, is that study drugs, which are the ADHD stimulant drugs
Mhm.
that they get from friends without a prescription, so stimulant drugs or gummies, the all the different THC
Sure.
products.
Mhm.
A lot of times, college students give these to their friends because they're trying to help them. Now, that's not necessarily helpful, but if a kid has been up for 3 days, they can't sleep, they're so freaked out about their, it's always chemistry 101, right? And they're freaked out about their Gen Chem test coming up, and they've been studying so hard and they can't sleep, and their roommate or friend goes, "Oh my gosh, just take this gummy, take this Xanax, take this pill, whatever, just get a good night's sleep and you'll do so much better tomorrow." The problem is, if that Xanax came not from a doctor and a pharmacy, and it is a street drug, it looks
Mhm.
exactly like Xanax that I would prescribe and a pharmacy would dispense, has the same markings on it, looks exactly the same, but if it is a street drug, it can have fentanyl in it, and, we know about the fentanyl crisis, and that, you
Sure.
know, that can kill you.
Yes.
So, I think it's
Well,
really important to talk about that rather than just focusing on, party drugs
right,
and yeah,
recreational use that
there's
it right, sure.
absolutely students that are full on partiers and they wanna increase their buzz, and they'll take whatever pill on top of drinking and weed and everything else. So, yes, that is there and that is risky. They know it's risky. That
But
is
chances
part of the
are
adult.
in the moment, if they're doing
I know it's
something else that
risky.
compared their
Yeah,
judgment,
but
they're
yeah, they also don't have a fully formed prefrontal cortex,
yeah,
and they also are like, "It's not gonna happen to me." Like,
right.
right? That's just part
Exactly.
of the whole age group.
Right, and that's why you put Narcan,
Yeah,
which is now over the counter. You do not need a prescription. You need to know that it's not sitting out over the counter. You have to go to the pharmacy
and,
window and ask for it, but you don't need a prescription.
so they
Okay,
can
so
also be in the first aid kit,
yes.
correct?
Yes, that's
Narcan? Okay. Is it a
but
is it always a nasal, spray?
yes.
Is there different okay.
How would a college age kid, young adult, know when to administer it to help a friend or a peer or whoever? How would you know?
If someone is unconscious, so if
Okay.
you cannot wake them up, you give that first and immediately call 911.
Okay.
And if they are just drunk, if they have alcohol toxicity, you will do no harm. If they have taken something that had fentanyl in it, you could save their life.
Okay.
but you immediately call 911. It's not a spray, they wake up, "Oh, great, we're good now." It's spray, hope
And
they wake up
go to
right
the
away,
hospital.
still call, yeah.
Okay.
And
And then as a parent, how do you know when to intervene? How do you know when your kid's just having a good time and experimenting and living their best college life versus I see some red flags that maybe some signs of addiction are creeping in? Like, what's the difference as a parent? How do you know when to intervene on their behalf for that?
so there's a lot of overlap with substance use and depression and anxiety. I think it's really important for a parent to put their eyes on their kid at some regular interval, once a week, whatever,
A
more
FaceTime
than
or in person
in
or
person, not in person. You do not need to run over to the campus and see them,
right.
especially if it's, 5 states away. But
Sure.
on a phone call or certainly on a text,
Yeah, you
you can get one word text and it's not helpful. But if you look at your kid and you see they are not, their hygiene is terrible, they clearly haven't showered. Um, um, a lot of times roommates will reach out. Girls tend to do that more than guys, but we'll say, they're not going to class, or you're asking them and they're like, "Oh, the professor's terrible. There's no point in going to class. I'm just doing it online." If they're not leaving the dorm room, if they're not showering, those are big red flags.
Okay.
And there is a lot of phone dumping, which is when a student calls home, and this is super common the first month especially, and, "I don't have any friends. I'm miserable here. It was a mistake. I shouldn't be here." And they pour all of this out. We hang up the phone. We're crying all night. They hung up the phone, they feel better, they got that out, someone knocked on the door and they're, getting
and they're
pizza.
off.
Right. And you
I like the
and you're
term
stuck.
phone dumping because
Right. That's yeah.
I've thankfully, we have 2 college graduates, but I know that feeling.
Yeah.
I've
They're
had
do
that
yeah.
feeling.
And
Mhm.
I did not originate that, and at the moment, I always
Alright,
wanna
we'll give credit to some
get
whoever, but we love it. Phone dumping, yes.
It's the same concept if your child went to camp. In a
Mhm.
letter, in that moment, they're writing how miserable they are, and
Mhm.
you're on your way up to camp to go save them, and the camp director tells you, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Because
Yeah,
you're getting them in snippets, you're getting them in that moment, and while you're left with that, "Oh my gosh, are they okay?" Like you said, they dumped, they're fine, they're moving on, and you're stuck thinking, "How am I gonna help them? How am I gonna fix the situation?" And they're already in a better place.
but on the flip side, if they are telling you if they are persistently miserable, or they're telling you, I just I don't wanna be here,
Right,
like, here,
Here
right.
in the
early.
world. Yes.
Huge
Yeah,
red flag, and
yep,
I do think you should drop everything and go.
Yeah.
right.
And it's hard. We all know our own kids, and it, there's so many things that make it m more difficult, and, with our constant communication or not,
Right.
um, but it's the hygiene and not leaving the room and not going to class is a
Yes.
huge one.
And sleep. So my older
Oh, yeah.
son
Yes.
did need to leave college, his original college,
Mhm.
and seek treatment. And it took a couple of years before he could go back to school. And it was a different school. But for us, it was sleep, the
Yes.
constant conversation about, I'm having trouble sleeping.
Yes.
I can't sleep. And then that would impact the ability the next day to be able to go to class.
Right.
So, that one. And can we talk about sleep also? Not
Absolutely.
in just the that's a real, for a mental health crisis, that being a problem, but just in general. Their
Yeah.
Yeah.
sleep hygiene, what shifts from leaving high school and leaving your home to being on your own in terms of 18, 19-year-olds and sleep?
So much, and I literally think that sleep is the most underrated preventative health tool because a tired brain makes everything worse. It
Right.
makes your emotions worse. You can't learn and retain new material. You can't problem solve. You can't do well on tests. And it makes everything worse. So the biggest mistake that college students make is that they don't get up at the same time every day. And this is a super unpopular thing to talk with them about. But when they come in and they're saying they can't sleep, it's like, well, what time do you get up? Well, I've got the early class, early for them might be 10 a.m. on Monday, Wednesdays. And truly, it doesn't matter. They need an average of 8 hours sleep. If they want to sleep from 3 a.m. to 11 a.m., fine. If you're consistently getting up at 11 a.m., but if you have to get up at different times, it screws everything up. So the wake up time, as much as possible, needs to be consistent. You're better off getting up at 7 a.m. every day if that's when you have to get up, but then taking a nap in the afternoon, short nap, not hours. And doing it that way. So that's the number one mistake they make. But there's so many things that disturb sleep in college. Number one, a lot of them haven't been sharing a bedroom
Mm.
because people are noisy
Right.
and people invite other people over and people are
Yes.
making all kinds of noises next to you. And there's all kinds of different things going on there. But so what I say is control what you can control. So the ideal sleep environment is cool, dark, and quiet, or at least with mass noise. So you can't truly control a dorm environment, but you can control your input. So getting a sleep mask. I like the ones that actually cover your ears as well and have the wireless Bluetooth speakers so that
Mhm.
you can listen to a guided meditation or
That's another great gift.
yeah, it is.
Sorry.
Or sleep stories. Yeah, I've got I have these all over the house. Uh, you know, this side,
Yes.
you put it on, it goes right over the ears, but it's soft. And because a lot of them try and put their earbuds in so that
Right.
they're
It's
hearing
uncomfortable.
other
Mhm.
And
stuff.
it's hard, yeah, when you roll over it, yeah.
And then you get a cerumen impaction, you get wax buildup, and then you got to go in and get that taken care of. So anyway, not a good idea. But so you cover your eyes, cover your ears, and get a fan. There's all different kinds of small
Right.
fans that attach that can blow towards you if you're 'cause most of the time you're starting it's hot in
Yeah.
August for
Yeah.
most places. Some dorms are just freezing and it's the opposite and you need something. I like weighted blankets for a lot of people who have anxiety or just trouble falling asleep. The weighted blanket can really sort of feels like someone kind of gently hugging you. You don't want to get the really heavy ones. The mistake people make is getting the 15, 20-pound ones. And you know what happens to those? Those get shoved to the side of the bed. They're too heavy. They fall down the wall. They
So
don't.
what is a good
They're then
recommended?
a dust collector at the
Right.
Yes, they're yeah, yet another thing collecting on the
Right, it sits with their vacuum, something they've never used all semester.
exactly. So, about a 7 pound for a smaller person. I would say 7 pounds, 10 pounds for a bigger person.
Okay, great.
Um, but definitely that's. I always start with the 7. They're not expensive anymore. They used to be
Yeah.
$100,
Mhm.
and now you can get them on Amazon for I don't know. I think the last one I bought was maybe $20.
Something my kids loved also, the cooling blankets.
Yeah.
I don't know the technology, but the blanket always
Yes.
feels cool, and I know especially my boys are hot sleepers, so they love their cooling blankets too.
Yeah. And along the lines of blankets and bedding, something again that college students told me last night is that many of them never did laundry before they went to college.
Oh.
That was, their mom took care of that in their
Sure.
family. And if you were not used to washing your sheets, um, even if you are used to washing your sheets, frequently they do not get washed.
Yes.
And which leads to body acne and body odor and unhappy roommates. When there's a discrepancy, when one is neat and the other, washes their stuff regular and the other one doesn't. If you have a high school student, start now. have them at least wash their sheets, if not doing the rest of their laundry.
Sure.
But and get them used to that, should just be a weekly chore. And
Yeah.
everybody washes their sheets on Sunday. Everyone that does wash the sheets washes them on Sunday night. So don't do Sunday nights. Like pick another day.
Pick another day,
Pick
Monday.
another day, right,
Yeah.
to use the
Yeah.
laundry room.
Yeah.
Right,
So
and you should have multiple sets of sheets. That way it makes it easy to change your sheets and not always
waiting to put the same set
waiting to
back
put the
on.
same one in and back because then that's an excuse
Yeah.
to not do it.
Honestly,
No, you're saying
what I
no?
have seen is that doesn't get used.
Doesn't encourage
Uh,
or doesn't get used?
yeah, this
They
this
just
second
use the
set,
same ones.
yeah, the second set just sits wherever they put it to begin with.
It sits with the heavy weighted blanket and the vacuum cleaner.
And if they will immediately put the sheets back on, because the thing is, some of them will get them washed, but then they will not make the bed.
Right.
They'll just live with the comforter. And
Yeah.
if they would wash the comforter, I don't even care if they just use the comforter. Just well, wash the comforter.
Yeah.
Whatever makes it
Whatever
easy.
you're laying on needs to be washed.
It would be
And
better.
or the pillow. What about the
Well,
pillowcase?
and honestly, at a minimum, washing the pillowcases. Yeah, because if they'll at least that will help with, face acne,
Yeah.
and that's easy to throw in with the rest of their wash. They're more likely to do that. You don't have to take it off.
Yeah.
Put the sheets off and on.
So there's a lot that we are covering and so many different things for the kids to remember. What happens when you have a child who struggles with either executive functioning skills or ADHD, which we know that a lot of the young population are diagnosed with? How do you recommend that population of young adults having a successful time at college?
It is a big challenge, and it's a bigger challenge if the parents have been their executive functioning
Person?
peripheral brain all through high school. The first thing is, okay, they've got attention deficit, right? And which sometimes is hyperfocus. But truly, time management, they have a lot of time blindness. Okay. So whether it's, I got to be at class at 9, for many of them who are very smart and do very well in math, really struggle with what time do I actually need to get up, ideally to eat something and maybe shower and get to class. And um, so that is a big challenge. And a lot of times it takes, working with a coach to figure out not just that timing, but bigger stuff like you've got a paper due and how to work towards that. Every school now pretty much has an academic success center. They call them different things. My favorite thing that they do is they give them a blank, and I actually have this in the book. They have a blank hourly, weekly schedule. And it's great to have them fill out, not just their classes, but to be able to actually, when they can see it and, see where the gaps are in the day, because the biggest surprise for most college students is that unlike high school, where you go in and your rear end is sitting in a desk all day long, and then you have your structured activities before and after, in college, you have this free time during the day, and they don't know how to manage it. Getting a handle on that early on and not waiting until they're in crisis academically is really important. And so being very proactive about encouraging your student to go to the Academic Success Center. It's never utilized the first 2 weeks of school. You can walk in any school across the country, get an appointment. It's peer to peer. Usually it's students that are helping with it. And they really can help with a lot of the common challenges for someone with ADHD. We want them to know how to take their medicine. We want them to be responsible for it starting this summer if they haven't up until now. But, if you've been the one chasing them out the door saying, hey, did you take your medicine? It's not part of their routine. And so having some kind of reminder system, whether it's something, there's apps that where they can check off whether or not they've done something. There's a bunch of apps now with executive functioning reminders from medicine to all the different things for ADHD. But I think it's being as proactive as possible with that. But the student has to buy into it. You
Right.
can't say, here's your
There.
plan. And I've tried.
Right, right. They need some skin in the game. They have to find what works for them
Ye
as well. And I would imagine the same goes true for what you were saying about, making sure they're taking it, making sure that when they're running low, that they know that they have to do a refill as well.
Yes, and refilling ADHD medications is a whole topic because there's supply chain
Right.
shortages.
Mhm.
Even, if you have to get it through the doctor because they're controlled substances. It's not the automatic refill. You can't just
Yeah.
call the pharmacy. You have to call the doctor. And then calling the doctor for a lot of students, they don't want to make a phone call.
Yes.
That's something
They'll
Carrie
do
and I have spoken about
Yes.
many times, just encouraging their
telephonophobia.
independence by a phone call. So many of the young kids today are have phone phobia.
Yes,
So
telephonophobia. It's a real word. And honestly, you know, I find myself we've all become so dependent on messaging
Yes.
Mhm.
that if we're looking at restaurants to order takeout, I'm going to go to the one that I can just click it online. I don't have to interact with the human.
Right.
We're all guilty of it, but they kind of grew up with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
You don't
it's
know.
What should kids on I keep saying kids and we know they're
yeah, young adults.
young adults, but they're always our
Yeah.
kids, our children. But what should they know about alcohol consumption or recreational drug use with the combination of their ADHD medication?
Or any medication
Yeah,
for that
Right.
matter.
Well, with the stimulant ADHD medications, this is not talked about much. And honestly, I didn't really know about it until I switched to college health. I did family medicine for 20 years and I didn't have that conversation because I hadn't seen it and it's not really talked about in the medical literature. But the truth is, when you have a stimulant on board in your system, it blunts the early effects of alcohol. So you have a drink, ordinarily you would feel buzzed. You don't because your brain is still, you know, stimulated.
sure.
And oftentimes what happens is they'll have two, three, four drinks, or more even, and especially if they're doing shots, they won't feel it. And they go from feeling nothing to suddenly feeling sloppy drunk and, puking and miserable.
Okay.
It just sneaks up really fast because it doesn't stop the blood alcohol levels from rising. It doesn't stop it from irritating your stomach or your liver or your brain, but it stops you from those typical warning signs of, oh, I'm feeling buzzed. And so they really need to understand that. Unfortunately, some students understand that too well and they purposely take it so that they look like they can hold their alcohol, and
Mhm.
that's super dangerous.
Right.
On the flip side, antidepressants, anti-anxiety medications, and ADHD medications, all of these lower your seizure threshold. Alcohol lowers your seizure threshold. All of these things meaning it's more likely to have a seizure. So when you start combining these, it's risk stacking. And they need to understand it's not just one plus one is two. It's, one plus one is seven in terms of your risk. And that's when we see people getting into trouble.
Does alcohol and weed, did they lower the effectiveness of your medications?
It's less that they lower the effectiveness and more that they're competing. So
Okay.
alcohol is a sedative. It's a downer.
Right, right.
And-
So if
and-
you're taking an antidepressant and then you're kind
right.
of
Right. It's like, I tell people, it's like, you're hitting your arm. Oh, doctor, can you give me something for my arm pain? I'm like, yeah, I can. But if you'd stop hitting your arm,
yeah,
it's a
yeah.
whole lot better. Yes, it's a problem. And alcohol and weed and gummies, they impair the quality of your sleep. Yes, they may make you relax. You may fall asleep more quickly, but you are not getting quality restorative sleep. And that's a problem. And again, a tired brain makes everything worse, all the emotions worse. So if you are using those substances to help you relax and sleep, it becomes a vicious cycle that then you're making yourself worse.
All important stuff to know, for sure. It's stuff that you wouldn't typically think about having these conversations with your kids before they go, but I think it's so important for them to have all of the facts and to go with your trusty handbook so that they can find the solutions to whatever is, because you do talk about so much of this in your
Mhm.
book.
Right.
Mhm.
And um, in terms of weed, I hear so many parents, um, and this is a gender bias, but a lot of dads more than moms saying, "Oh, weed is just no big deal," and there's, it's natural, it's whatever. Actually, the parents don't usually harp on the natural. The young people say, "Oh, it's natural. It's from a plant." What people need to understand is that today's weed is not yesterday's pot,
Mhm.
and the concentration of THC is much higher, and you can get a weed induced psychosis. It can be addictive. 1 in 6 get addicted, which means 5 out of 6 don't. Yay for the 5 out of 6, but you don't know going into it
If you're
which
going
one
to
of
be
the
the one.
6 you are.
Right.
And that's still a pretty high number. And, in college health, obviously, we see the bad outcomes. I have a strong bias against weed because I largely see the bad outcomes. And it's so predictably unpredictable. With alcohol, it's a little more, you drink this much and get this result. Problem with weed is that it's it's not even legal everywhere, and you don't really know what you're getting. And you can buy the same thing from a legal head shop if you were 21. You can buy the same description weed, and one time, 5 times, it's great, and the 6th time, you have this horrible, scary, bad trip with a weed-induced psychosis, and
Mhm.
it's very scary. The psychosis means you can't tell reality from not reality.
Is it an hallucination?
Yes, and,
And an extreme,
and
unfortunately, I have experience with that, and it is an extreme paranoia to the
I say
nth
big
degree, and it could come with auditory or visual hallucinations, and
yes.
you don't know. But I have a question about that. Are there any pre-indicators for our children that might be more susceptible to this happening? Because you're saying 5 out of 6 kids, fine, they would get high, no problem. And then you have the one who will have this extreme outcome.
Yeah.
And in our situation, we didn't know until we know. And it's a
Most
horrific,
Yes.
scary place that I would never wish on any parent ever. However, our kids that have ADHD or mental health, like, is there any pre-indicators that would say you're more likely for this to happen? Or is it the actual THC?
I always say, I wish it were something simple like the color of your hair or something,
Right.
like something obvious. The
Yeah.
only thing we know is if you have a family history of schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, those can increase your risk of psychosis. But
Uh,
a lot of people don't even know that until it happens in their kid.
They find
Over and
something.
over, I've seen this where a young person is hospitalized and, with acute psychosis and ends up in a pretty bad place and frequently years of rehab. And after they start digging into their own family history, they find out, oh yeah, there's been issues before, but that's really it. I mean, there's not.
there's nothing that comes
There's
And
nothing
we,
before
you know,
it.
we
Right.
know we know we know kids with ADHD, obviously, they lack impulse control, right? And so, I mean, that as do most adolescents anyway, but that on top of it, makes it riskier, but it's not inherently that, ADHD makes you more likely to have weed-induced psychosis.
What about addiction? Do ADHD kids have a higher rate of addiction?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of
No.
my head. There's a
Okay.
strong correlation.
So, in general, as parents, we just need to be educated and have the conversations early. Sitting right now, her son's going off to college at the end of June for the summer. She should have already had these conversations, which I know she has, right earlier in high school when they're emotionally or a little bit more mature and appropriate and things are happening. We should be having these conversations all along the way and
Yes.
not rush, rush, rush to get them in on their way out the door.
Right. Right.
Right.
It's hard if you haven't
And you haven't. Hurry up.
You're like cramming it all in at the end.
Hurry up.
Uh,
There's this great book.
yeah, just slip a 20. Some of a bunch of parents that when it first came out, I had so many people that I did not know messaging me on Facebook saying, "Oh yeah, I just put 20s or gift cards in my favorite topics that I wanted to be sure
Oh,
that."
that's so
Oh,
funny.
that's so
Instead
funny.
of a Post-it, a $20 bill.
There you go.
Read this.
Funny.
Yeah.
It's
When
true.
they call you, Mom, I need some money. Well, you remember that book that I gave you? Look on page such and such, read that, and maybe there'll be something for you.
Yeah.
But I mean, look at the size of this book. There's so many topics. So, I mean, we cannot even begin to scratch the surface just from our conversation today.
Yeah.
But I like sexually transmitted diseases. I mean, do condoms save you from everything, or what should we know about that? I mean, there's
Yeah.
so
One of
much
the things you
valuable
should know about
information.
that is that you need to use condoms with oral sex. And
Mm,
you're like, "Oh, no one does that." Well, why are there flavored condoms? Oh,
there you go.
there you go. That would be why.
Right. There, I
They're,
mean,
they're not
yes, and also
100%
another very important conversation to have.
yeah. And birth control pills are very effective when they're taken at the same time every day. They're not so effective when they're taken at bedtime or when you get up, if you don't get up at the same time every day.
Yeah.
Right. Or if you miss one, or in
Or you throw
whatever
up,
this,
or you're
right.
hungover and you take it and you throw up.
Yep.
So,
All of the things.
yeah, always use 2 methods.
Yes. Great. I mean, listen, these are so many great pieces of advice. And we thank you so, so much for being with us and sharing all of it with
Yeah.
us. I do have one question, though, that is really not related to the content or what we've discussed. Carrie and I want to know so we can be prepared when we get the phone call. When Oprah selects you as one of her favorites, how does that happen? Does she call you? Can you share that with us? Are you able to?
Yes, so funny thing. So I said earlier when I wrote my first book that I
Yes.
was
Yep.
to hand me on Oprah. That did not happen. Um, and lots of places have favorites for their gift lists and things
Mhm.
like that. Obviously, Oprah's are, very well
Yes.
known and a
Mhm.
big deal. So last year, um, I'm fortunate that my book has been on it last year and again this year. So I'm very happy about that.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Here, about this time of year, there's a women's physician Facebook group, and some people were they were posting pictures of making the first aid kit. And let me tell you, when physician moms
That must
too much
be
stuff, but it's all good. But so they're posting pictures of this and talking, and somebody commented on there, "Oh, hey, by the way, saw you're on Oprah's list. Congrats!" And I'm like, "Ha ha ha, that's hilarious." And she's
oh,
like,
so you
No, it's
didn't
like,
even
no, I'm serious.
"Seriously?" And I'm like, "What?" I Googled it, and sure enough, there it was. And I'm like, and actually, they had the wrong edition on there. But
So did you
well,
quickly mail
darn.
her one? I mean, what'd you
I emailed my publisher
Oh,
actually, and I said, "Hey, did you guys know? Did you put this in? Like,
yeah.
how did this happen?" And they're like, "Oh, no, we didn't know.
Oh,
Congrats. Yay." I'm like,
okay.
anything else? Nope. And I'm like, well, they have the wrong edition. Can you get that fixed? It was dramatic for me because I was so shocked.
Right, right, right.
And it was so validating. It's such a silly thing
No, it's
that's what,
amazing.
It
really,
is not a silly thing because
No.
we all know growing up watching Oprah, we all know that whatever she says turns to gold.
Yeah.
So
there you
it
go.
is not a small thing.
Yeah.
Congratulations
Yes,
on
Thank you.
both
congratulations.
being on the list for 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was
So
very
if our listeners would like to purchase a book and or follow and reach out to you, can you share with us the best methods of doing that?
Sure. So I'm on Instagram. It's my name, Jill Grimes, MD. I'm on TikTok as TikTok.collegedoc. And the book, honestly, is go to your favorite bookseller. It's usually on sale on Amazon. If you want to use your local uh, independent bookstore, it's definitely there.
Yes.
Just ask them to carry it. If they don't, please,
Okay.
that'd be great.
we follow you on social media too. And I love you just had something on, I love your little cartoons that you do, but you just did something on fake IDs.
Yes.
That was really important too. So a plethora of information.
Mhm.
Please follow Dr. Jill
Yes.
Grimes everywhere because
Yeah.
you will not be disappointed in the information she has to share.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much for being with us today.
Yeah, we thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you. And thank you to our listeners. And we will attach in our show notes all of Dr. Jill Grimes' contact information. And thank you so much for following along and follow us on Instagram, Parent Coaches Unleashed. Thank you. Thanks, Jess. Thanks, Dr. Grimes. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Parent Coaches Unleashed with Carrie and Jessica. Together, we can raise the next generation of independent, capable, and compassionate young adults.
We encourage you to send us an email with questions and feedback to info@parentcoachesunleashed.com. Please remember, you are not alone on this parenting journey.